So, Royale High has officially opened their badge applications, and you may actually be able to apply because they have significantly lowered the barrier to entry compared to previous years. And a lot of you guys have been asking me, hey, Pommy, are you applying? And so today we're going to be going through all of the requirements and seeing if I can qualify, and I will let you guys know whether or not I'll actually be applying. Now, earlier today, Royale High released this official statement. I don't think I really need to read the whole thing for you guys, like it's pretty short. But they basically say, which I think is an important thing to note, if you're a positive, kind, inspirational member of the Royale High community, which we're going to get into that a little bit later here. They also mentioned how they're actually introducing new incentives and perks for the Crown Royalty creators as a way to give back and celebrate the amazing work that they do. So I remember in previous years there was like an exclusive Discord server or group chat or something like that for members who were in the Crown Royalty program. However, that server did have a number of controversies, mainly just surrounding like creators like Call Me Haley feeling like they couldn't share specific feedback without getting like a passive-aggressive message. However, I do think it's important to acknowledge that message came from a previous community manager, but as somebody who has been recipient of what I believe and feel to be a little bit of a passive-aggressive post, I'm a little bit apprehensive about that. But regardless, we're going to now get into the actual Google form that is linked at the bottom of the application that basically talks about all the requirements that you need to fulfill to be able to enter the program, which also includes follower counts and stuff like that. So basically, for those of you that don't know, in previous years, the amount of followers you had to have on certain platforms was quite high. It was like 40,000, 50,000, etc., depending on the platform. And that's quite a bit of subscribers and followers to achieve, obviously. And there's a very slim amount of creators that actually achieve that level of status. Now, the new requirements are YouTube, 5,000 subscribers, TikTok, 10,000 followers, Twitch, 1,000 followers, Instagram or Twitter, 4,000 followers. So you can tell that obviously the follower counts here are slightly altered based on like how difficult it is to earn followers on certain platforms. I think it's pretty well known that TikTok is one of the easiest platforms to grow on. However, I would say in recent years the algorithm has changed quite a bit. YouTube, I would say, is kind of meh. Like, it's okay, but it's not like TikTok back in 2020. And then Twitch, of course, is one of the hardest platforms to grow on, so that does make sense why it would be about 1,000 followers. Now, something I want to mention before I get into the rest of the video is that I feel like, which this isn't hate to Royale High, but I feel like a lot of games base their influencer programs based on following counts, which I just feel like is a flawed way of thinking, right? Because at the end of the day, I'm sure you guys can recognize this. There is a ton of Royale High creators that have so many subscribers, which, side note, one of which was about the short that I posted yesterday, that have so many subscribers, like thousands upon thousands of subscribers, but their videos like get like 300 views or like 400 views, which I'm not making fun of anybody's views, obviously, because views fluctuate, and there's times where my videos don't do as well as other times, and that's natural, right? The YouTube algorithm isn't always going to favor your content, and that's okay. However, I do see an issue with this kind of framing of how you're going to decide whether or not people are worthy enough to be in your program, because at the end of the day, anybody who does YouTube professionally or makes money off YouTube understands that subscribers mean absolutely nothing. They're like, not that you aren't grateful for them, because obviously you are, and they do come with a certain level of status or respect in the community, but at the same time, if you ask any famous YouTuber like what's more important on YouTube, they will always say views. And it's not because you want to be clickbaity or, you know, sensationalize everything, but it's because views allow you to be impressionable, allows you to get, you know, attention of others. It allows you to basically influence the thoughts of others. If you have a ton of followers but you barely get any views, that tells sponsorships or companies or games or whatever that your videos either A, just aren't performing well because your audience doesn't resonate with them, or B, you botted your channel, which is a big issue for a lot of creators. I did specifically note that there are a lot of creators, specifically in the Royale High community, that have a ton of subscribers but barely get any long form views, but get a decent amount of short form views but barely get any short form comments. And this is due to like the whole YouTube Shorts kind of, I would say, brain rot posting kind of epidemic, where during 2020, 2021, 2022, there was this whole push to post YouTube Shorts, and it ended up basically poisoning people's channels to the point where your seed audience, which is like your main audience that you have on YouTube, that's where your videos get sent first. If you're posting long form videos and you got virtually all your subscribers from short form content, your seed audience will not watch your long form videos, meaning that your long form videos will flop every single time because your seed audience is not receptive to that kind of content, which I do think is an issue for a lot of creators, and I empathize with that. And that's why on this channel, I've been so careful to post very few YouTube Shorts, because I want to maintain my long form seed audience, because one, it's more profitable, and two, I feel like it's better to have longer form videos get more views compared to short form videos, just because the impact that has on obviously the community. But regardless, I do think it would be interesting if Royale High maybe in the future would potentially reconsider the way that they are analyzing and evaluating channels, because I think going just based off subscriber counts isn't necessarily the best way to examine somebody's, you know, influence on the community, because viewership is something that's really important. It goes to show how much, you know, the player base is active within a specific YouTubers community, TikTokers community, etc. And I think there's a lot of creators who maybe don't have a ton of subscribers, but get a ton of views or are just really influential and make really good quality videos. And I don't think that their lack of subscribers should overshadow their effort and like obviously the amount of work that goes into their content, because to a degree, if you make good content, you will get a ton of views. And you may not always get a ton of subscribers. I have millions of views on the channel, but I don't necessarily have a million subscribers because that's not how subscribers work. But personally, in my opinion, I do think views are much more valuable than subscribers. Subscribers are just a number. Views are actual people who are consistently watching your videos, and I think that makes a creator a lot more impactful. Of course, that's just my opinion, but that's just what I think about that. So I want to share kind of my 2 cents on why I personally think that maybe going off of views or like monthly returning viewers or something like that may be a better metric in the future for evaluating like a creator's like suitability for the program. Because again, you can have tons of followers, but those followers can be botted, those followers cannot be watching your content, or those followers may not resonate with Royale High content. And so seeing a consistent viewer base with a specific kind of video is definitely the best way to determine whether or not, in my opinion, someone would be a good fit to constantly advertise your game. Now, when it comes to the actual form itself, I want to pull this up for you guys, which I will link the form down below if you guys like to apply. But basically, there's a bunch of requirements for this form. And it starts off by saying the Crown Royalty program is designed to spotlight creators who positively represent the Royale High community and actually create content centered around the game. Please review the guidelines below carefully before applying. Now, I think something important to note here that may cause an issue, guys, is positively. Because I think a lot of people often associate my channel with negativity because I talk about hard subjects. And obviously, my intention isn't to be a negative Nelly or to be like a hateful person. And I think I'm pretty respectful of the way that I word things. But just because somebody talks about hard topics that other creators may be afraid to talk about because of the backlash does not mean that someone is inherently negative, which I do want to clarify. They say to be considered, applicants must actively create Royale High focused content, videos, live stream, shorts, posts, etc., which my channel does, and I'm sure many of you guys do as well. Upload or stream consistently on at least one platform. I upload about 1 Royale High YouTube video a day. Be an active and engaged member in the Royale High community. I'm checking Royale High Twitter quite a bit for video ideas, so yeah, I'd say yeah. Community standards. Crown Royalty creators are expected to be a positive, respectful influence of the community, which I do think something important to note here is that going forward, they use very vague language, and I think that's purposeful, so obviously they can kind of pick and choose which creators they want in their program, and that's their right, obviously, because when you have a game, you don't want to be like indirectly or even directly promoting creators that maybe you don't agree with or that don't represent your brand in the best light, which I'll get into in a second here. But they go on to say, treat players, creators, and developers with kindness, encourage inclusivity, creativity, and fun, avoid harassment, hate speech, and harmful behavior of any kind. Harmful behavior of any kind. I would be curious what they identify as harmful behavior. Is critique considered harmful behavior? Again, I think the kind of vagueness of this is purposeful so that they can kind of obviously screen applicants effectively, and like basically it can just be up to them whether or not they want to let somebody in the program. But then they go on to say family-friendly expectations. Royale High is a family-friendly game, and creators in the program must keep content appropriate for all ages, follow Royale High's community rules and guidelines, which you can just find those in the game directly. Avoid explicit language, themes, or imagery in Royale High related content, which I don't think I really swear. I maybe say shit once in a while, but that's about it. Contact and controversies, guys. We're getting spicy. To maintain a safe and welcoming space, applicants should not be involved in ongoing or recent controversies, which, guys, I've never been involved in a controversy ever. The amount of current Royale High badge holders trying to drag me into drama constantly, it's insane. You would not believe it. Anytime someone makes a lie about me on whatever platform, there is almost always a Royale High current badge holder that's like, oh my god, I knew it. I hated her. I knew there was something off about. Whoa. I don't even know you. Like, what'd I do? What'd you say me for? Like, no history of serious rule violations, scams, or harmful behavior. The program reserves the right to review public conduct across platforms, which this I think is a really important note here. I really so badly hope that when they're reviewing these people's profiles, they will actually review things like quote tweets and replies, because guys, the amount of people I have seen actively like being like, oh my god, I applied, and they put on this persona of being this like, oh my god, sunshine, rainbows, sparkles, I love Royale High, and meanwhile they are actively sending death threats or like inciting violence against my channel on Twitter. Guys, don't even get me started. I pray so badly that they actually screen people, because guys, it would be so funny if people didn't get the Royale High badge because they don't think about things before they post them, and because they have actually been like, for like lack of better terms, bullying me when I'm not even there. It's very bizarre, guys. If you just go and search Pommy, you'll find it. And you'll find that there's a variety of badge holders who are very mean. I've never spoken to these people, to clarify. They want to say final notes. Submission does not guarantee acceptance, which of course I think that's a given. Obviously they have the right to choose players, whatever. Applicants will be reviewed carefully. Selected creators will be contacted directly if accepted into the program. They go on to say, now that we've covered the important and slightly boring stuff, thank you so much to everyone who takes the time to apply. We truly appreciate the creativity, passion, and love you bring to the Royale High community. We're excited to share what will be introducing new incentives and perks for our Crown Royalty creators as a way to give back and celebrate the amazing work you do. Selected creators will be notified by the end of May 2026. So you guys have until the end of February to apply, and then they have a couple months to review the applications, and then you'll be notified. Now, obviously, I think this is for good reason. I've seen a lot of people complain that, oh my god, that's so long, that's such a long time. Well, there's going to be thousands of people that apply, and I can guarantee you the majority of people that apply will not even meet the bare expectations, like the bare minimum expectations, because they're just like, oh, like maybe, we'll see. Which obviously you can do that, but that's just going to further backlog the process, so I do think that's a little bit counterintuitive. But regardless, I do obviously think that this is, I would say it's a fair amount of time to wait just because of the amount of applications that are coming in. If you look at the tweet that they released just a couple hours ago, there's already so many people commenting, being like, I put in a submission, I did this, I did that. And for my mutuals or people that, obviously I've had private conversations with regarding Royale High content and stuff like that, I really do hope that they get in, because I do feel like there's a lot of really under-recognized creators, specifically TTRH, TT Royale High. I've had some conversations with them. They're very friendly, and I definitely do hope that they get a badge because I think they really deserve it. But regardless, now for whether or not I'll be applying. In case you couldn't tell by the tone of this video, no, I will not be applying to the Royale High Crown Royalty program. And there's a couple of reasons for this, but keep in mind these are all reasons that are just my opinion. The first one is that although they seem to be gotten better, Royale High does have a track record of not liking critical creators, which I can respect, obviously. You're not going to like it when somebody is calling out stuff that they don't like, someone is picking up things that maybe they think are inconsistent, people are picking out stuff that they're like, hey, this doesn't make sense, I don't like this. And obviously, as a big game, you're already getting enough harassment, you don't necessarily want somebody nitpicking everything I do. I get that. I don't take it personally. Second thing, there has been some tweets made that seem a little bit passive-aggressive, kind of slightly directed at my channel, so I can pretty much guarantee that if I did apply, no. I think I'd be characterized under the harmful section, not because I go out of my way to be harmful, because that's not what I do, but because my content does kind of bring up sensitive, I guess I would say like touchy subjects, in the sense that stuff that Royale High players are very passionate about, stuff that has been like highly controversial in the Royale High community. And obviously it does stir up some emotions sometimes, but that's the point of my content. The point of my content is to get people talking, to get people having like discourses and having conversations, because if you don't have discourses, if you don't talk to each other, if you don't have communication, there will never be change in a game. And I think something that sometimes people misunderstand about my channel is that's not meant to be harmful or hateful towards Royale High, but rather to highlight things I personally think could be fixed, i.e. one of the suggestions that I gave, which I'm not saying they took it per se, was that they give more incentives to Crown Royalty program creators, because those are the creators that literally boost your game every single day. My channel inherently boosts Royale High every day, but at the same time, there are creators that are constantly making really positive Royale High videos, like TT Royale High, other creators of that nature that basically just make update videos and talk about their thoughts, and they do it in a really positive light, which I can appreciate. And I think that that's something that should be recognized in the form of compensation, whether that's sneak peeks, direct contact. I don't know what they're going to be offering, but I do think that that is obviously something that's really important as a way to give back to the creators that are every day waking up to make content about your game and are constantly promoting a positive environment. At the same time, my channel just isn't that. At the end of the day, I'm never going to be someone who's always positive or someone who's like sunshine, rainbows, everything's great. I'm not saying any creators I've spoken about in this video are like that, because a lot of them can add their own critiques to videos and stuff, which I think is good, but I think my content is a lot more critical than a lot of other creators, which does kind of create this dynamic where people interpret my content as being inherently negative or mean, when that is certainly not the intention. And I think that's why I've ruffled some feathers, specifically with Royale High badge holders, and why I seem to be pretty hated among Royale High creators, which is fine, I get it. Because at the end of the day, something in a recurring comment I've actually seen on the Royale High badge holders tweets when they're talking about me is that it sucks that I'm one of the quote unquote, according to them, biggest Royale High YouTubers, and I'm so quote unquote toxic. Which I wouldn't necessarily consider myself the biggest Royale High YouTuber, just because I make a lot of Royale High content does not mean I'm a Royale High YouTuber. I wouldn't qualify myself as that. I would qualify myself more as like a commentary creator for like girly games on Roblox, if that's what you want to call it, because those are my interests. Those are the games I grew up playing. But I can understand that people are maybe upset that my videos get views when I'm being critical, but at the same time, I do always try to be very respectful with my words. I'm never cussing anybody out. I'm never calling anybody out by name, which I could in this video, trust me. I'm never like obviously saying things that with the malicious intent or things that I knew were untruthful. Like, I'm always trying to go off things that I believe to be true, things that are based on my opinion, my experiences, the experience of others. I read experience of others, regardless if they disagree with my own, to share different perspectives. However, I do understand that not everybody likes that kind of content, and that is why I will not be applying to the Royale High badge program, because I don't think my content aligns with what they're looking for. I definitely think they're looking more for creators that are consistently much more positive and are much quicker to uplift Royale High, which I think obviously if you're a game and you want to endorse creators, that's your right. You're allowed to only select creators that you feel, promote your game in a very positive light, and I think that's okay. And I don't hold it against them for not necessarily liking criticism all the time, because personally, if I owned a game on Roblox, I don't think I like critical creators that much either. But regardless, that's just my thoughts, and that's why I will not be applying to the Crown Royalty program. However, I do wish anybody who does want to sign up for the program as much luck as possible. I hope you guys do get in. Do keep in mind that although, they do have follower counts in place for whether or not you'll get in or not, whether you'll even be considered, I do want to clarify that I don't think your follower count determines your worth as a creator. I think what matters a lot more is your direct impact in the community, your views, how active you are, stuff like that. So don't take it the wrong way if you aren't accepted right away, or if you don't have enough subscribers, followers, whatever it may be right now, because at the end of the day, you're constantly a channel that's going to be growing, whether or not you're just starting your channel or you've had it for a bit. If you are consistent, you will get views, you will get subscribers. I started my channel in September, and we're here. So obviously there is an ability for you guys to grow, especially if you want to get to the Royale High space, or maybe you're a little bit afraid that you won't get into this wave. Don't worry, because Royale High did confirm they'll be doing this every single year. But with that all in mind, I wish everybody who applies the best of luck, and I will not be applying. However, no hard feelings. I just don't think my content aligns with what they're looking for. So with that in mind, thank you guys so much for watching, and let me know down below if you guys are going to be applying to the Royale High Crown Royalty program. Again, the link will be in my description below for you guys to apply if you are interested. And I'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye!